Please welcome Matthew Olzmann and allow him to guide you through his bewildered cabinets of wonder.
I don't have a watch, I have a cell phone, which I had a watch. I have one watch, but it's busted, and I can't find any place in Hanover, New Hampshire that can fix it. But, hold on a second, I gotta set this timer. I've timed this thing, and it's gonna take like 2 minutes less than they told me to read, so you're gonna get like a gift of 2 extra minutes that you can do whatever you want with. One day you're gonna need 2 minutes, and you're gonna remember this moment when. All right. 14 letters to a 52 hertz whale. 1. Dear 52 hertz whale, because you sing at a frequency no other whales can hear, scientists have nicknamed you the world's loneliest whale. I'm sure it's unbearable out there, swimming through eternity, calling out and calling out and calling out and never getting a reply, never hearing a kind word in response. Wherever you are tonight, I hope you're being careful. 2. Dear 52 hertz, would it be weird if I came to the ocean to visit? I haven't figured out the logistics of this, but it'd be cool to hang for a while. Problem is, I don't know how to find you. I could get to the beach, but then what if I swam out to meet you? I'd get eaten by tiger sharks. If you swam to the shore, you'd get stuck and then you'd die. Once there was a video going around the internet of a beached whale, and it was dead, and the villagers didn't know how to get rid of the carcass, so they tried to blow it up with a bunch of dynamite. That didn't work out too well for them. It was kind of messed up, actually. 3. Dear whale, it was stupid of me to mention that other whale getting blown up with all the dynamite and everything. Totally insensitive. Sorry, I have no grace. I've been told this before, that I have no grace. I apologize. Just trying to make conversation. Sorry. 4. Hey, whale, you ever dress up as other animals? If so, what kind? It's almost Halloween out here. I was just wondering. 5. Dear whale, Halloween was totally lame. This one little kid came to the door dressed as a dolphin, but he had a net over him. And I said, what's with the net? And he said, every year hundreds of thousands of dolphins and whales are killed by the tuna fishing industry because they can't figure out how to avoid the nets. And I thought he was insulting your intelligence when he said that. So I said, look, motherfucker, you don't know a goddamn thing about whales. Get off my porch. 6. Maybe I overreacted there. 7. Dear whale, you ever see people swimming nearby and think to yourself, I could really have some fun with this? 8. Like maybe you could surface right next to them and then yell something like, Jonah, I've been looking for you, and then open your mouth really wide. 9. That's what I would do. 10. I don't know, maybe whales have better things going on. 11. Do whales believe in providence? 12. Do you ever float on your back and scrutinize the stars and see unexpected figures among them, like maybe the shapes of other whales? Do you assign them names and imagine stories for those make-believe creatures as they drift through the dark? Do those stories lend structure to your days and nights? Do they comfort the nervous waters, constellate the disjointed heavens, and render the marvelous in a manner you can endure? Do you believe them? 13. How cold is the bottom of the ocean? How crushing is the pressure down there? 14. Do you ever worry that because your voice is impossible to hear, maybe no one will even make the effort? That you can work really hard and try to be a good person and try to make a difference in your community, but then at the end of the day, the waves will just swallow you whole. They will take you under. You'll disappear from the world, and you won't even leave a ripple on the surface. Thank you. I also wanted to, I'm really grateful to be here for the 15th annual Palm Beach Poetry Festival. 15 years, man. Like 15 years ago, I could not have imagined being in a room like this. So I want to thank, everyone involved, especially Miles and Mimi and Susan and Jennifer and my workshop for their generosity of spirit, and Cecily for general awesomeness, and all the interns for being like everywhere all the time. And like every time I turn around, they're doing something different, like running a microphone or carrying a box or handing out tickets or bringing someone water. So it's pretty amazing. I'm reading mostly new poems from a collection of epistolary poems, which I just finished a little while ago, and then a couple things from a newer thing, which I just started a couple minutes ago, and then but I'm going to read one poem from both of my 2 books. This is from Contradictions in the Design. It's called The Man Who Was Mistaken. No, I'm not the Associate Dean for Faculty Teaching and Learning. You're thinking of Gary Hawkins, is what I told the second person this week who thought I was Gary. Gary, who like me is bald and wears glasses. Gary, who once in a desert airport 10 years ago was mistaken for Moby. Moby, the musician, Moby, who like me is bald and wears glasses. I am not Moby. I'm the man who was mistaken for the man who was mistaken for Moby. I'm okay with this distinction, just like I'm not Jesus. But in 1996, I shared an apartment with a guy who would go to parties in Detroit and dance until his ankles bled. He came home once talking not about Moby, but the idea of Moby. I was trying to play a video game, Street Fighter, I think, and was about to win the thing, which is when he said, you know that part in the song First Cool Hive where the music stops being music and starts being tongues of fire descending across the land? Which is when I said, no, which is when he said, stop being cynical. I'm trying to say I had a spiritual experience, that the Spirit was inside the music. I'm talking about Jesus. Which is when I said, wait, you think Moby is actually Jesus? Which is when he said, I think we all are. Which is when my guy on the TV screen got his head kicked in and died. The game was over. I didn't know what he was talking about. But looking back on it now, I realize that music and the Spirit are fused, like that point on the horizon where you can't tell the earth from the sky from the smokestacks that ignite them both. Am I saying that one face in the crowd could be any other face? Am I saying that we're not all that different? Am I saying we're all connected? No, I'm saying my roommate ate a lot of drugs and would come home and say crazy shit. Once he thought our furnace was talking to him, which is when I said, why don't you tell me what the furnace is trying to say? Which is when he said, it said that me and it would always be enemies. Which is when I said, son, that's a fight you can never win. Which is when he said, okay, then went outside to dance on the hood of his car, which is when the cops came. Perhaps he was right. Jesus was inside the music, and the music was inside him, and the state couldn't tolerate it, so they sent their officers to make him stop. What did the music tell him? It told him the world was on fire. He danced anyway. So many people in the world, and when they dance inside the pulse of smoke machines and strobe lights, I can't tell one from the next. There's a word for the fear of being unable to distinguish yourself in a place like this. I am not Jesus. I'm not Moby. I'm not Gary Hawkins. I'm the guy who looks like that other guy. Him, the one who has changed, the one who could be someone else. Mountain Dew, oh, this is from Mezzanines. Mountain Dew commercial disguised as a love poem. I'm only allowed to read this one when my wife isn't here because this one kind of like she rolls her eyes at it all the time. So here's what I've got. The reasons why our marriage might work. Because you wear pink but write poems about bullets and gravestones. Because you yell at your keys when you lose them and laugh at your own jokes loudly. Because you memorize songs, even commercials from 30 years back, and sing them when vacuuming. You have soft hands. Because when we moved, the contents of what you packed were written inside the boxes. Because you think swans are overrated and kind of stupid. Because you drove me to the train station. You drove me to Minneapolis. You drove me to Providence. Because you underline everything you read and circle the things you think are important and put stars next to the things you think I should think are important and write notes in the margins about all the people you're mad at, and my name almost never appears there. Because you made that pork recipe you found in that Frida Kahlo cookbook. Because when you read that essay about Rilke, you underlined the whole thing except the one part where Rilke says love means to deny the self and be consumed in flames. Because when the lights are off, the curtains drawn, and an additional sheet is nailed over the windows, you still believe someone outside can somehow see you. And one day, 5 summers ago, when you couldn't put gas in your car, when your fridge was so empty, not even leftovers or condiments, there was a single 20-ounce bottle of Mountain Dew, which you paid for with your last damn dime because you once overheard me say that I liked it. All right. This one's really new. I'm still not sure what I think of it. In my version of heaven, there will be no forgiveness. I recommend finding a moral high ground and just standing there forever. That's not a metaphor. That's an expensive piece of property I flaunt over my neighbors. Maybe so they'll applaud my obvious wisdom. Maybe to make them question their own life decisions and consider dying. It's a respectable hill that looks down upon the valley, the way I look down upon those who believe they can transcend previous indiscretions, folly, questionable voting records, the train wreck of their marriages, of their yearning, of one boxcar mangled and obliterated by the next, forsaken and stoic. It's just me and my trusty megaphone up here, where I like to shout things like, the lesser of two evils is still evil. Then I wink at the greater of two evils and watch as it descends upon the villages to set fire to their thatched roofs, their dandruff, their sealed court documents, their misguided poetries, their ambition or lack of ambition, whatever, not my fault, should have gotten themselves a bluff, a cliff, a ridge, a sanctimonious peak to preen upon, their internet browsing histories, the lint between their toes, their lack of competence. There was a time when I didn't believe the rubble of the world could pile up so joyously, or I acknowledged the possibility but thought it worth the risk, the high cost of being right all the time, of being alone and so very sad, to have to say, I told you so, from this summit, this berm, this precipice, this escarpment above you. My workshop today, some superheroes came up, and this is a poem about Batman, which just seems to be a theme running through my day. Letter to Bruce Wayne, after Borges. A good place to hide a drop of water is a stream. A good place to hide a stream is beneath an ocean. A good place to hide a man is among thousands of other men. Watch how they rush through the city like water through a ravine. I've searched many famous cities for you. There are 3 listings for Bruce Wayne in Houston, 2 in Pittsburgh, 1 in Miami, 1 in LA. In Tampa, Bruce Wayne is a retired chemistry teacher. In Flagstaff, he drives a taxi and hopes to procure a diamond for his soon-to-be fiancée. A good place to hide a star is a galaxy. A good place to hide a galaxy is a universe. Look at the night sky. Justice used to be a cowl and cape, the flicker of wings under an ateliated moon, and you, like a gargoyle, crouched up atop some stone edifice. To conceal a universe, place it in a multiverse, that hypothetical clutch of alternate realities. The dilemma of the word alternate is how it implies a norm, a progenitor stream from which the alternate diverges. Which is the alternate? Which is right here, right now? There is no such thing as Gotham City, but here is Gotham City, and I've been so naive, believing the truth of the old mythologies, how they promised a recognizable villain, a clown with a ruby-slashed mouth, a lunatic's laugh. In the universe where I exist, supervillains look like everyone else. Give them an old flannel to wear and a square jawline to smile at the world, and suddenly they're hanging a noose in a middle school bathroom. They're shouting, "Get out of my country," from the window of a passing car. They're pulling a revolver in a crowded bar room or bus stop. They could be anyone. They could be everywhere. A good place to hide a sociopath is a full-length mirror. A good place to hide that mirror is the heart of a well-populated area. In the battle of good versus evil, I was so sure that good would win. Now I just hope something good will survive. Get a job cutting hair or selling cars. Make it home for dinner. I suspect there's a parallel dimension where you, dear vigilante, long for this as well. To have a normal life is victory enough. To remain anonymous and not be spat upon in the subway. In Boston, Bruce Wayne owns a pawn shop. In Milwaukee, he plays pinochle and feeds stray cats. In New Hampshire, he goes fly fishing on the Sugar River. Reels in one brook trout after another. When he removes the hook from a mouth, he might place the fish into a cooler, or he might set it back into the stream, the alternate or the original, no longer certain in which we stand. This one's pretty new, and I'm not sure what I think about it either. Letter to a younger version of myself who had never known hunger. Everyone here loves someone. My father's sick. I'm picking up some things for him, one might say. 3 kids trying to get us back on our feet, another tells you. Everyone here loves someone, and because they love someone, 5 cans of corn, 5 bags of rice, 2 boxes of cereal. They took the bus after work, walked from 2 towns over, 1 bag of flour, fresh produce, 1 pound of frozen chicken, because the company downsized, because an unexpected illness, because the insurance agency had no answers for what was damaged last night. In the offices of yearning, hunger has no interest in hearing how 40% of the food we produce will go unsold, uneaten, destroyed. It doesn't care if you've gone to college or have a blood clot in your left arm. It offers no discounts when someone breaks into your home and sets fire to the kitchen, if you made a bad investment, if you were in an accident, if you stole a couple credit cards, got arrested, and now no one in this town will hire you. One day, you'll find your way here, because everyone here loves someone, and by then, you will too. You haven't met her yet, but there will be a day when you'll be hungry and she will feed you. I still remember the care she took with each meal, and though I didn't know it then, the food we enjoyed came from a place like this. Everyone here loved someone, and the person she loved was me. Perhaps I asked for more when there wasn't any left to give, and only then did I understand. When you arrive at this juncture, you'll feel a bridge collapsing inside you. That feeling will be shame, but also love, and years later you might find yourself unloading a truck, sweeping a floor, wearing a name tag, sorting tomatoes. Where is this place I'm telling you about? It doesn't matter. It could be anywhere. You carry a carton of eggs. You carry a bottle of milk. You carry the unspoken history of each kindness you have received, though have not always felt you deserved. Or maybe I'm mistaken. The only thing you carry is a loaf of bread, which you hold like an offering to place in someone else's hands. Letter written while waiting in line at Comic-Con. Klingon, Parseltongue, Na'vi. People invent imaginary languages, so imaginary citizens of imaginary worlds can speak to one another. Elvish, Ewokese, Dothraki. You can learn these languages. Come to a convention with your face painted blue or a leather scabbard bolted to your back and talk to people who will understand you. I understand what language feels like when you're not understood. More than once, I thought some other planet might be home. Once, I saw a man punch another man until neither looked like a person. There are hundreds of reasons like this to long to be from some other galaxy, century, or dimension. Reasons to put on a spacesuit or wizard's cloak and hope no one will recognize you. But it's not these costumes that amaze me. It's always been the languages, the way they reach for something that can't be said in our tongue. In the only language I know, there are not enough words for parabola or isotope, too few phrases to say, I'm sorry, or I'm glad that I found you. Though we've been married for years, I wish we met when we were children. If we had known each other in the year you spent alone on Earth without one friend, we could have been aliens together. I'd have those green four-fingered hands, you with your glow-in-the-dark antennae, words in the form of strange whirling noises, low chirping machine sounds, wisps of static, lamentations of rain. Only you and I would know what it meant. William Shatner. 1. This one's in 9 parts. I feel like I have to mention that when I have a poem in numbered sections, because someone once told me that when a poet starts counting at a reading, if they go past 3, the entire audience braces themselves, thinking, "Oh, this could go on forever." So there's 9 sections here. 1. Dear William, I was hoping to talk to you about the time I first saw the movie version of Fight Club. If you haven't seen it, it's about young men who punch each other in the face, urinate in the food of strangers, and blow things up. Basically a documentary, I guess. This is their response to the problem of contemporary masculinity, but though when said like this, it sounds paradoxical. Made sense at the time, I suppose, but there is one scene where Brad Pitt and Ed Norton's characters discuss who they'd fight if they could fight any celebrity, living or dead. Ed Norton said, Shatner. I'd fight William Shatner. Everyone in the audience laughed, but I wasn't sure why. 2. I too live in a movie where the men are always angry. They're revving their engines and spitting from the windows, cracking their knuckles and glaring, burning like a flare on a stretch of abandoned highway, cleaning their fingernails on the point of a buck knife, going outside and kicking the dirt, thinking of their mothers and yelling at the sky, that sort of thing. 3. For the past 45 minutes, I've been on hold with Priceline's customer service. I'm being transferred again to someone who, again, will not be able to explain why my reservation, which is eligible for cancellation, is not eligible for cancellation. Every so often, a recording of your voice, dear William Shatner, dear company spokesperson, interrupts the music to tell me that the world's fastest roller coaster is King Dakar, to say you'll stay on hold with me, to offer a recitation of a poem you wrote about a woman named Ruth. 4. Out in the world, the men are shouting, gathering on the sidewalks and shouting, marching through the streets and shouting, punching their pals on the throat and shouting. It's how us cave people say everything from I have happy feeling to the irrational is less of a peculiar aberration and more of an ontological inevitability. 5. Still on hold with Priceline, and for an 8th or 10th time your voice comes in to say the world's fastest roller coaster is King Ka. And by now I'm saying, Jesus Christ, can you stop with this already? Then you offer again to share a poem you wrote, and I'm yelling, no, just let me talk to a human, which is when you actually begin to recite the poem saying, there was a young lady named Ruth, and suddenly I understand. Shatner, I'd fight William Shatner. 6. God damn it, now I'm part of the problem. I've punched my card and I'm back in the He-Man spontaneous combustion of Wrath Society, pacing my living room and shouting, pressing the phone against my head and shouting, pounding a fist on the table and shouting. This portable inferno for one, a fault line opening in the town square where all the buildings crumble and all the men gather to holler into the ashes. 7. I should say I don't really want to fight you or anyone, that I'm embarrassed by rage, particularly when it's mine, the ordinariness of it. 3 strangers, one after another, all trying to fix a problem over the phone, a problem that, like most of my problems, was probably my fault to begin with. There are good people out there, and they fix it. They correct the problem. They cancel the flight, tell me to have a pleasant evening. 8. Now the town is quiet and the streets have emptied, as if all the shouting men caught a brief glimpse of themselves and, startled by their reflections, ran out of things to yell about. Rethinking their lives, perhaps they've gone home to rest in moonlit rooms, to light lavender-scented candles, to recline against pillows that cradle the shapes of their fragile heads, to dream of soft hands touching their weathered faces. 9. The world's fastest roller coaster is King Ka. I know this because you told me, but I've since looked it up. It's named after a 500-pound Bengal tiger. The males of the species are territorial and aggressive, renowned for their teeth, their claws, and their fury. They rip things apart. They are beautiful, but they spend most of their lives alone and are nearly extinct. Letter beginning with 2 lines from Czesław Miłosz. You whom I could not save, listen to me. Can we agree Kevlar backpacks shouldn't be needed for kids walking to school? Those same children shouldn't also require a suit of armor when standing on their front lawns, or snipers to watch their backs as they eat their lunches. They shouldn't have to stop to consider the speed of a bullet or how it might reshape their bodies. But one winter back in Detroit, I had this one student who opened a door and died. It was the front door to his house, but it could have been any door, and the bullet could have written any name. The shooter was 13 years old and was aiming at someone else, but a bullet doesn't care about aim. It doesn't distinguish between the innocent and the innocent. And how is the bullet supposed to know this? Child would open the door at the exact wrong moment because his friend was outside and screaming for help. Did I say I had one student who opened a door and died? That's wrong. There were many. The classroom of grief had far more seats than the classroom for math, though every student in the classroom for math could count the names of the dead. A kid opens a door, the bullet couldn't possibly know, nor could the gun, because guns don't kill people. They don't have minds to decide these things. They don't choose or have a conscience. And when a man doesn't have a conscience, we call him a psychopath. This is how we know what type of assault rifle a man can become, and how we discover the hell that could thrum inside any of us. Today, there's another shooting, and the dead are everywhere. It was a school, a movie theater, a parking lot. The world is full of doors, and you, whom I could not save, may enter a door and may open a door and enter a meadow or a eulogy, and if the latter, you will be mourned and buried in rhetoric. There will be monuments of legislation, little flowers made from red tape. What should we do? We'll ask again. The earth will close like a door above you. What should we do? And that click you hear, that's just our voices, the deadbolt of discourse sliding into place. Thank you. I have 2 more poems. Thank you guys for listening to this. Sleep on a bed of nails. The trick is more nails, enough of them, and with your weight distributed evenly among 1,000 or so, any given nail individually cannot generate enough pressure to inflict its judgment. 1,000 tiny injuries, grievances, betrayals make up a lifetime where you are still here, able to recline across it all, dreaming, if you wish, of a vessel without damage, an unharmed body, a forest perhaps, dreaming of light streaming through the branches of an elm or blue spruce, or if you prefer dreaming, of hands lifting you, so careful as you lie across them, so gentle, afraid of what might be broken, and their touch, so light they might actually be the light through the trees you dreamed of earlier. You are as weightless as this light that falls over you, falls over your bed of nails, which is beneath your body, and is your body, and is so far from your body. This last one is called My Invisible Horse and the Speed of Human Decency. People always tell me don't put the cart before the horse, which is curious because I don't have a horse. Is this some new advancement in public shaming, repeatedly drawing one's attention to that which one is currently not and never has been in possession of? If ever I happen to obtain a Clydesdale, then I'll align absolutely it to its proper position in relation to the cart, but I can't do that because all I have is the cart, one solitary cart, a little grief wagon that goes precisely nowhere, along with apparently one invisible horse that does not pull, does not haul, does not in any fashion budge, impel, or tow my disaster buggy up the hill or down the road. I'm not asking for much. A more tender world with less hatred strutting through the streets, perhaps a downtick in state-sanctioned violence against civilians, wind through the trees, water under the bridge, kindness. LOL, says the world. These things take time, says the office of disappointment. Change cannot be rushed, says the round table of my closest friends. Then together they all say, the cart. They say, the horse. They say, haven't we told you this already? And so my invisible horse remains standing where it previously stood, between hot dog stands and hallelujahs, between the NASDAQ and the moon's adumbral visage, between the status quo and the great filter. And I can see it's not my horse's fault, being invisible and not existing, how he's the product of both my imagination and society's failure of imagination. Watch how I press my hand to his translucent flank, how I hold 2 sugar cubes to his hypothetical mouth, how I say I want to believe in him, speaking ever so softly into his missing ear. Thank you, guys.